The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf.
We are fully permitted. So in Arianne, you have the only fully permitted greenfield phosphate mine in the West.
All right, welcome back inside our Proactive newsroom. And joining me now is the head of strategic business initiatives, Brian Ostroff, for Arianne Phosphate. And Brian, it's great to see you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Steve.
Yeah, good to have you along. Excited to learn a bit more about what's going on within the company. I know you've had significant news today, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But maybe for those not familiar, give me a bit of background on the company and really your project.
Yeah, so Arianne Phosphate, we're the owner of the Lac project in Quebec, Canada. It is today the world's single largest greenfield phosphate deposit. As some of your viewers may know, most phosphate comes out of the Middle East and North Africa, along with a bit out of China and Russia. So, from a security of supply side of things, obviously being based here in Quebec, mining friendly, is pretty significant. The nature of our phosphate, it's geologically rare in that it's igneous, so it allows us to make a high purity phosphate concentrate, which is then easily transformed into some of the more technical grade phosphoric acids, the things that you will find in LFP batteries, pharmaceuticals, semiconductor production. So it's pretty important stuff. And demand for that is big time growing. Lastly, I think one of the key drivers to Ariane is we've been at this a long time, 15 years, $100 million spent, but we are fully permitted. So in Ariane, you have the only fully permitted greenfield phosphate mine in the West.
Yeah. Um, People are sort of starting to wake up a bit to phosphate and understanding the importance of it. And you mentioned some of the uses for it, data centers. There's a lot of things that are going to be needed in the future. And again, we hear about this supply chain of getting things North America and specifically here in Canada. Talk to me a bit, Brian, about the importance of that. And I'm imagine you answer those kind of questions all the time about the importance of having something local, especially in a jurisdiction where it sounds like the government is really backing phosphate as well.
Yeah, absolutely. In regards to phosphate, look, it had always been understood as an agricultural commodity, but
Right.
with things like the LFP battery, more and more people are starting to understand its critical nature outside of food. And like many of these battery materials, China dominates it. 97% of the world's LFPs come from China. To your point, energy storage is becoming a really big demand, and you need
Huge.
that for the data centers and AI. So, the governments have definitely started to wake up to this. Canada has put phosphate on its critical mineral list in 2024. The end of 2025, the Americans did. This is pretty important stuff. The government, Canada, Quebec have been very supportive of us. Quebec government owns roughly 6% of us. So this is key. And again, to your point, geopolitics being what they are today, I'd say the West rightfully is very concerned about having access to these important materials. I think that a lot of people, of course, understand that lithium is key, graphite, the rare earths. Phosphate's right there too. I mean, the LFP battery, you can have all the lithium you want, but if you don't have the phosphate, you still don't
Yeah.
have an LFP battery.
Yeah.
So, this is a market that we are keenly aware of and actively pursuing.
When it's in the name, it's kind of important. So there you have it, LFP. Let's talk about today's news because, as I mentioned, it was a huge milestone for the company in partnership with another company that you're dealing with. You've been able to have the successful continuous production of phosphoric acid using your concentrate. So huge milestone, Brian.
Yeah, look, I think it continues to demonstrate how Arianne will be a very important piece as we try and move away from foreign sources of these critical minerals. So, what you're highlighting today is news that we put out. So, working with Corem, a lab in Quebec City, and with support, including financial support from Natural Resources Canada, we were able to take our phosphate concentrate and continuously run for the production of phosphoric acid. So this is the first time in 130 years that phosphoric acid was produced here in Quebec with a Quebec-based phosphate concentrate. So big news, very exciting, continues to prove out our path towards production and being able to answer the question about where are we going to get this stuff.
Yeah, and how you do it exactly. So let's talk about where you take this now. Obviously, this is a milestone. So maybe give people an idea about what's ahead for the next, 3 to 6 months for the company.
Yeah, so as I had mentioned, Ariane's been around for quite some time and has advanced this project really towards a point where, certainly development of the mine with the permits, etc., can be done. But we've been actively focused for the last little while on going downstream and producing that key purified phosphoric acid. And so we have been in conversations with numerous corporate partners. Those are advancing nicely. That news today continues to show that this is a very viable path towards production as well. We're doing some work with another company that has an interesting way of being able to reuse the sulfur when you make phosphoric acid. So we didn't really touch on this, but with what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz, people talk about energy, 20%, 30% of the world's phosphate comes through the straits, but 50% of the world's sulfur. And you require sulfur if you're going to process rare earths, copper, and phosphate. And so, we think that several of these business initiatives will really be a big, big catalyst in terms of us getting to production and producing the PPA, the purified phosphoric acid that the world, that the West is going to need.
Nice. Well, it sounds like it's going to be an exciting time ahead, Brian. After, as you mentioned, 17 years in the making for sure. So, great to see you. Thanks very much for the update and congratulations on that milestone. Really cool for the company. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
You bet. Thank you very much.
All right. There's Brian Ostroff. He's the head of strategic business initiatives for Arianne Phosphate.
The featured company is a paid client of Proactive Group Holdings, and this recording is disseminated by Proactive on its behalf. It is for informational purposes only and does not constitute investment advice, an offer, or a solicitation to buy or sell any securities. Viewers should conduct their own research and consult a qualified financial advisor before making investment decisions. The views expressed are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect those of Proactive Group Holdings, trading as Proactive Investors, or its affiliates. No responsibility is accepted for any loss arising from reliance on the information presented.